Thank you, Chairman. And first I want to thank Mr. Steed for his willingness to work with Senator Udall and I on provisions of this bill to ensure that this spectacular landscape in southern New Mexico is protected for generations to come. I do have a few questions about your testimony, Mr. Steed. In particular, I have here a letter from Customs and Border Protection that says that this legislation would, quote, significantly enhance the flexibility of U.S. Customs and Border Protection to operate in this border area, end quote. We actually release over 30,000 acres of wilderness study area in order to make that flexibility possible. So other than the obvious political changes here in Washington, D.C., since this letter was written, what has changed in this section of the New Mexico border in the last 18 months that would make this legislation no longer a significant enhancement of flexibility for Border Patrol in the area?
As to the specifics of this area, Senator Heinrich, I can't really say. What I can say is a general practice. Well, it's been our understanding.
Your testimony makes assertions about this, so correct. I would expect you to have an answer to that question.
Sure. And as I was saying, in lands that are more restrictive in use, it's been our experience that it's more difficult to operate patrol and other enforcement on the border. It's been also our sad experience that cartels and other criminal elements are absolutely willing to exploit those.
Sure. So, Mr. Steed, have you spent time on this section of the border?
I have not been to this area.
So I've spent a substantial amount of time on this section of the border with Border Patrol agents so that we could craft this proposal with their input, which is exactly why we create a buffer zone that releases these areas. It's exactly why we built the mobile surveillance sites into the legislation. So if you're going to make assertions that this would somehow create a more difficult operating situation on the ground on the border, I'd like to know what those assertions are based on.
Certainly. Senator, the bill proposes a large amount of wilderness area in proximity to the border. Because of the restrictions associated with wilderness, especially those that withhold the ability for motorized patrol, I think it's very difficult to say that this enhances
well, it actually
security.
Creates a zone of motorized patrol between the border and the wilderness areas.
That's
in addition,
correct. Although
have you looked at the data on the El Paso sector as to where the most problems are and where the fewest problems are in terms of border crossings? Because one of the things that these roadless areas have effectively done is made it a lot harder for cartels and other people trying to move illegal contraband over the border to be able to move north and south, which is a very positive impact on our ability to actually apprehend illegal activity and illegal persons before they get to these areas.
Senator Heinrich, I appreciate your view on that. I can say that in other areas that's not been our experience, and we're concerned. I was on the phone last night with our law enforcement folks in Arizona. They're meeting with Border Patrol.
This is not in Arizona. This is the El Paso sector.
This
is New Mexico.
That, sir. I'm saying that as in similar areas.
I would just ask that you become more intimately familiar with this actual section of border and the challenges that we face along it before you make assertions.
Thank you, sir.